Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Welcome to Friday. How you guys doing? We made it. We made it to Friday. We made it to May. Yes, we made it to May. How you guys doing? Appreciate you guys joining me. Massive Iron Live. We're here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's always weird getting yourself on camera, right? Because you're rushing around, you're doing work, you're taking the dogs out, you're taking the garbage out, you're doing normal stuff, and then you call in your basement, like all of a sudden you got to jump on camera. You're like, is there a dog hair here? Is there something going on there? So anyway, guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. If you are new here, I run this every Friday. It is a lifting and nutrition Q&A. I'm here to help. So if you are new here, don't be shy about posting up questions. That is what I do for a living. So, excuse me. We're just trying to digest our caffeine live on camera. Don't be shy about posting up your questions. I'm here to help. If by chance you're tuning in later and you missed a live, you can head over to Instagram. Where is it at? Here you can head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman. Slide into my DM. I would love to help you out. I answer every question over there, so don't be shy. Also, if you are interested, you could join our amazing community, teammassiveiron.com. We have one of the best lifting communities on the internet, and we've been doing that, I think, over 2 years now. We do some interesting things over there. We have members of the month. We have daily topics. You can do form checks. You can get some help. You can ask me questions 7 days a week. But other than that, other than the help, we just have a really good community. I'm really trying to do my best to keep Massive Iron growing. And we have a lot of the folks from Team Massive Iron that tune in every Friday. So you can check it out at teammassiveiron.com. So how was your training week? My training week wasn't too bad. I did shoulders 2 days ago. I'm looking to do leggies today. Shoulders, I did seated pin press, 205 for 3 sets of 5. Not my best effort, but I have kind of a issue with my bicep tendon. I was doing some lawn work for about 3 hours 2 Sundays ago and strained my bicep tendon lifting a bunch of stuff into a dumpster. So I did pretty good despite that. I thought you always get frustrated, right, when you get an injury and you want to do a little bit better in the gym, but you got to pull back just a little bit. Now, before we get started, guys, I want to let you know I do have some coaching slots available. I've been working on my training app, and I've been using it for 2 weeks now. It's nothing I can show you guys, but we've been working out some of the minor bugs. Things are going really, really well for the training app. Keep an eye out for that, for alpha and beta and that sort of thing. But it is coming, I assure you. I want to let you know that I'm still going to be doing coaching full time. I'm going to try to ramp it up just a little bit from now until fall, and then come fall when the app starts to roll full speed. I'm not going to be pushing coaching as much. I don't really push it now, but I mean, I don't have a lot of turnover. My clients tend to stay on for a while, but I want to ramp it up a little bit right now. So I'm going to be taking on a few more clients. I'm going to try to take on 5 to 10 more for the summer months. So if you are interested in coaching, please check out my link on Instagram at Ben the Barman. You can email me, benthebarman@gmail.com, or simply reach out to me, DM on Instagram at Ben the Barman, or head over to my website, superlivingtoday.com. Head over to my website, superlivingtoday.com. Head over there. There's a coaching tab. You just simply get more information. It's only $89.40 a month after the first month. I'm with you every single day, 5 days a week. I'm not a check-in once a week guy. I don't do that kind of nonsense. I don't like to coach like that. So if you're interested. All right, let's get on to the questions, because that's why you are here and that's why I'm here. And I don't want to stuff your ears with commercials and sell stuff. So before we get started, I want to see if I can talk about training volume. Let me see if I can upload this from my pewter and we can have a quick discussion about training volume before we get into your questions. I'd like to hear what you guys have to think. I just posted this on Instagram, Anti-Massive, this morning. There's a lot of talk about training volume in the lifting community, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. There's a lot of talk about training volume in the lifting community, optimizing training volume. Should I add more training volume? But I can tell you there's a disconnect from someone like myself that coaches for a living, and when you go on YouTube Fitness or Instagram Fitness, and like I'm in my coaching world where I'm helping real people in the real world, right? With kids in school and life demands. And then you go on YouTube Fitness, or you go on to social media fitness, and they're all talking about, pushing the conversation that, or the conversation, should I add more training volume? Is your training volume optimal? I think this is a little bit of misguided discussion. It's a little bit of a misguided discussion, because the reality of lifting is that while the online fitness community is busy debating extra training volume, we as human beings barely have time to finish the training volume we have right now because of life demands, right? So this makes for an interesting conversation, but if training advice isn't grounded in the real world, then what good is it, right? So all these discussions simply do is create a lot of fear and paranoia and anxiety for folks that don't have a lot of time to spend in the gym. And these discussions kind of lack the bigger picture. So what am I talking about? What's the bigger picture? The bigger picture is this: lifting is a long-term process, and this is very important. This is one of the pillars that you guys hear me speak about over and over and over again, week in and week out. Lifting is a long-term process, and as long as we stick to that process, we progressively overload, we train hard, we nail our nutrition, we have a reasonable degree of exercise variety, you're going to be fine. All these things that try to steal our joy from the training, process, right? Make us paranoid, impart fear, like we're not doing the right split or we're not doing the right amount of training volume, right? Discussions like these really don't matter. It's not a question of 10 sets versus 20 sets a week for chest. This is nonsense, and I can't stress that enough. These conversations are good for those that have endless amounts of time to train and want to dial in the 1%. But for the rest of us, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. It's a question of, what can I do to remain consistent over the next 10 years? That's really what it's about for you. If you want to know why most lifters fail to build muscle, it's because they're not consistent over a 10-year period of time. Fitness is a lifestyle. It's a journey. It's something you have to be passionate about. What really matters is remaining consistent over a 10-year period of time, not the micromanagement of volume or what training split you use. So use this rule, and I'm going to get on your questions in just a moment. Do what works for you right now. Maximize what works for you right now. Make your sets count. Make your nutrition count, and stay consistent. Do what you can right now, because this is what is going to lead you to the best possible results. Here's a reality that doesn't go over well in the modern fitness landscape because it's not sexy. You can gain a ton of muscle training only 3 days a week, using only 2 sets per exercise if you just train hard, nail your nutrition. You would be surprised how many people come to me thinking that the world is going to end because they can only train 3 days a week because of their schedule or school. And I have to walk them off the ledge, pull them off the ledge and say, you're going to be fine. Just focus on doing what you can in this season. So relax. I want you guys to relax. Optimal is consistency and hard work over time. It's doing what you can do right now. Doing what you can do when you can do it. Trust the process and enjoy your gym time. All right, let's get on to questions. Let me know what you think about that. Carl McBean, a client of mine. Good morning from the road. Good morning, Carl. I'm glad to have you tuning in. What's going on? Big Joe, a client of mine. Good morning, Team Massive. Matthew Hickenbottom. How's it going, Matthew? A client of mine. Morning, Big Hairy Ugly Dude. Your opinion on speed work for compound lifts like dynamic effort days. Don't like it. I don't think it has value. I really don't. I'm not alone in this. Many other strength coaches I work with agree with me. I've tried it. I've invested time in it. We only have, this goes back to what we were just talking about training volume. You only have a limited amount of training volume per week. Invest your time doing things that are going to be more productive, working on your quads, your back. I've never found any value in speed work. I remember Louis Simmons saying once that his guys want to do more, and it was kind of a tool to allow them to bench and deadlift without benching and deadlifting, right? So I'm not a fan of it. I think there are better ways to spend your training week. And if you want to mess around with it, go right ahead. But I would never program it nor never recommend it. Brabell Bryce joined Team Massive. Thank you, sir. TeamMassiveIron.com. I've heard dropping fat nutrition below 60 grams a day isn't healthy. Well, that's arbitrary, and we'll get into that because of its role in hormones and nutrient transfer. Somewhere you were watching something where somebody gave out an arbitrary rule. So I'm going to dive into the nuts and bolts of things because everybody's different, and you can't. Number one, this is just silly. You can't apply 60 grams to everybody, right? Like my mom, she's 75. She lives on 1,000 calories a day, right? That would be 540 calories. Multiply the grams times 9 calories, and that will give you calories per day. That's 554 calories from fat. Women tend to maintain maybe around 1,700. So you're trying to bump there. And maybe you're not specifically referencing women. Maybe he was referencing men, but you're trying to bump their intake to about 30%. There's a lot of men that maintain around 2,400, and that's above 25%. It's a very arbitrary rule for that reason. Arbitrary, when you see something that's arbitrary in the lifting and nutrition world, we have to kind of step back because it's a red flag, right? Now, let's set the table. Fat intake is very important for skin, organ health, brain function, central nervous system function, and your hormones. It's very important, obviously. We don't want to avoid fat. Now, with that said, there are two scenarios. You have a cut and bulk. A cut's generally short-term, unless you're morbidly obese. So we basically have three scenarios. We have the bulker or maintainer, somebody just trying to be healthy that might not be trying to gain weight or is trying to gain muscle. Then we have the fat loss camp that's either doing a very short-term cut or is morbidly obese and needs to save their life. So the morbidly obese that needs to save their life, they need to focus on animal and plant-based as much as possible. And look, their health is at risk. So this is really in the weeds here, like over worrying about your fat intake. They need to get their weight down. Obviously, they need fat intake, but for somebody that is doing a short-term cut or a long-term cut, their priority is maximizing nutrients out of the calories they're taking in and maximizing food volume so they're not as hungry, okay? So for those folks, going down to about 20% or aiming to go down to about 20% of their daily intake from fat is a goal. That's still plenty for your hormones, for your brain, for your skin, for your central nervous system function. You're fine, okay? We're not going low. I never see somebody go below 20% unless they are doing some radical no-fat, low-fat diet. So really, this is a non-issue because of that. I've been coaching forever, which is a reflection of my age, right? But I don't see people going too low in the danger zone unless they're doing some concerted effort to avoid fat. So for that reason, it's a rather silly conversation. Email says fat is the most satisfying, though. No, it's not. Fat is satiating, yes, but you're missing the bigger picture here. Email. You have blind spots you don't understand. The biggest issue for somebody cutting isn't that, like, you're telling them to do a high density amount of fat, and they're trying to get in food volume. So I say this respectfully, but you don't understand what you're talking about. You have some blind spots, and I'm trying not to insult you, but you're trying to apply some fat is satiating rule to people that are trying to save their life. They just over-satiated and they're morbidly obese, right? So wherever you got that from is you're way overstating the importance of fat. Like, fat is the satiating thing. Therefore, we need to eat fat, and somehow we should eat less protein, less carbs. That doesn't work on a cut. If you have a 50-year-old woman, now we're getting down a rabbit trail, 50-year-old woman that needs 1,300 calories a cut, and you're trying to encourage her to eat 40% fat, she has no food volume. So, email, I'm going to bounce back at you and say protein has the most micronutrient density. We need nutrients, so you're going to need to get in your protein. So you're over-focusing and oversimplifying and trying to create a rule. Fat is the most satiating. Fat is satiating. Protein is satiating as well. And again, I'm not trying to come at you, but it has the most nutrients. So we're not doing ridiculously low fat intake levels. So back to my point. I've never seen anybody, Joe, go into a zone on fat intake that's so low that we have to worry, right? In this day and age, it's very, very difficult to get into a low-fat zone unless you're living in a box and just eating chicken breasts and rice. Does that make sense? So it's really a non-issue for that matter. Anybody that's not trying to lose weight, you get in your protein, and then if you just eat normally, say 80% of your food from animal and plant-based, and then maybe 20% loose calories, right? Then your fat intake is going to be normal, right? Unless you're eating radically only chicken breasts. So anybody that's bulking or maintaining and eating a relatively healthy diet of at least 80% of their calories from animal and plant-based, their fat's going to be perfect. It's usually 25, maybe 30% based on food choices. More likely to be 25 to 27, but it's never in the danger zone. So I don't know why somebody would go out of their way to put out a arbitrary goal like this. Number one, that's arbitrary. Number two, it's really a non-issue. I've never met anybody that had low fat intake where I was like, come on, you need to bring your fat intake up. Right. So just understand that this is a lot of paranoia over an issue that doesn't exist. Hey, T-Massive, finally caught it pre-live. Thanks for joining in. What is the best thing about being a dog owner? I can tell you the best thing about being a dachshund owner. They're loyal, super fun dogs, super smart. They don't take up a lot of bed space. Just wonderful dogs, man. They're smart. They're playful. They're just wonderful, wonderful pets. And some dogs just kind of like dopey. They go along with you. Dachshunds aren't that. They're so full of personality. We have 4 of them, and each one is very, very different in personality. The clock off press absolutely torches my delts. Good. Glad to hear it. Like, I can't lift my arms up. Very nice, right? But I use 20% less. Don't worry about load, okay? That's mind cancer. We're worried about hard training. That's your platform. Not load. Load isn't the magic. The magic is foundation of hard training, and then progressive overload on top of that. So you go into the gym, you're always going to do less on a clock off press. You can't possibly press the same on a clock off press as you could on a seated front press, right? You're in a better leverage position. What we have to look at when we analyze an exercise is progression opportunity. So we're looking at safety, obviously. Is this a safe lift for you? And obviously it is. And then we look at what is the progression opportunity? And it does have a progression opportunity. So does it have the same progression opportunity as the military press, push press, seated overhead press? No, that doesn't mean it's not a quality exercise. It certainly is. How would you determine which exercises to use if only one can be in the program? Well, here's where I'm going to come back at you with a question. Why is there only one in the program? Why can there only be one in the program? So as somebody that programs for a living, programming is what I love to do. It's my thing. It's I love to create workouts. I love to program. You know, it's the foundation for my coaching. So my question for you is, why can you only have one in your program? You can do a clock off press one week and a seated overhead press the next. Variety, a little bit of variety is always a good thing. We don't have to over variety our programs, right? We don't have to take every exercise slot and have an A-B week. But when it comes to pressing variations, if you're going to insert something like the clock off press, or let's say something that's not as normal like the Arnold press, then it's probably a good idea to keep the more conventional press in the mix as well. I am a big proponent of having 3 overhead presses a week. If you only have 3 days a week to train, then 2, a dumbbell and a barbell. If you are doing a barbell and you like the clock off press, then I would alternate it A-B. I would probably have an A week where I do the clock off, and B where I do a seated overhead press or a standing overhead press. So that's what I would come back at you with. And I hope that helps some. Basically a question about the spectrum of feel, mind, muscle, and loading. And I hope I answered that a little bit. Do you find value in pushing sets further with partial after full ROM? It's not possible. Very good question. And for those of you guys listening, what I want you to understand are there are some exercises that you can continue to perform once you reach failure, form failure or technical failure, with partial range of motion and still get some feel. Okay, so let me explain. On a bench press, you fail, the bar's on your chest, you're done, right? You're done. You can't by yourself, and we're talking about by yourself, do partials because you're done. You can't get the bar off your chest. We're talking about by yourself. If you want to incorporate the help of another lifter, that's another topic. But for this topic, we're talking about by yourself. So you're doing a bench, you're done. Okay? You're doing overhead press, you're done. But what if you're doing a standing overhead press and you were doing strict, and all of a sudden you can start to do a push press to get a few more reps on? Okay, this isn't necessarily partial. Maybe it is. Maybe the first one you get all the way up. Maybe the second one you do a partial. Maybe the third one you only get right here. At that point, it's probably a good point to shut it down. On a barbell row, pendley row, let's say you are really strict and you get to 8 reps and speed starts to slow and you know you're about at failure. You could continue by using a little bit of English, a little bit of cheating, as long as you're driving the elbows back and feeling the back. Now, do I count these reps? No. These are like post-failure post-apocalypse, right, reps. You can continue to do more, but I wouldn't count them. So if you have a lift where you can continue to do more with cheating or partials or whatever, and you can still focus on the muscle group involved, could you do it? Yes. Would I do it on every set? No. Would I have a tendency to do it on the last set of that exercise? Yes. If you want to go full-blown Mike Menser, heavy duty, and do it on every set, go for it. I would probably just minimize the number of sets you do. So this is actually something I came up with this week, and it's curious that you brought it up because I have something called the massive curls protocol. In lifting, you have what's called progressions, okay? You could have a plank, which is a basic progression, and a more advanced plank, which is a harder progression. You can do progressive supersets or progressive trisets or progressive rest pause, where you are doing strict reps, and then you get to the point where you can't do strict reps anymore. So you advance to a progression, and I'm going to explain how you would do that. With massive curls, we do strict barbell curls or easy bar curls. Then when we can no longer continue, we start to cheat. We try to cheat up 4 reps. And then we move on to another progression, which is mechanically easier, called the drag curl. So we're doing like a tri-set, but this is actually one set featuring 3 mechanical progressions. You're going from strict curls for about 8 to 10 reps to a more mechanically easy variation, the cheat curl, and you're still able to hit your biceps for about 4 reps. And then you're going to finish off with a mechanically advantaged variation called the drag curl. So I'm having a lot of my clients do this, but I'm not really getting into the nuts and bolts of what we're doing. This is actually a tri-set progression, a rest pause progression. You're going from strict to loose to a mechanically more advantaged variation in the drag curl. Now, this week, I've been having them do that on shrugs lately as well. Like, we're doing more intensity stuff, but I'm not puffing up my chest and going, this is heavy duty, or this is, Dorian Yates dungeon training, but we're leaning that way in some areas. It's more advanced training. Shrugs. We do about 8 reps where we shrug up, controlled mind muscle. We hold for a second, go down. Shrug up, mind muscle, hold, go down. We do it for about 8 to 10 reps. What do we do after that? We do a progression into the power shrug. So it's not a superset per se. It's kind of a post-failure technique. But we're going to do the strict reps, hold, down, and then we're going to do some power shrugs. How many? As many as you want. You could add, at the end of that, a static hold. So you basically have 3 exercises or 3 movements. The super strict mind muscle shruggy, the power shrug, right? And then the static hold. Once your traps are completely torched, then you can progress into a static hold. Does that make sense? So one thing I thought about this week was, how can I do this for shoulders? So what came to my mind, and you can't really do this on a seated press, but you could do this on a standing press, right? You could do a strict overhead, right? Then when you can't do the strict overhead, you would advance to what? A push press, using as much English as you needed to get the weight overhead. The delts are in a state of fatigue. The delts are in a state of fatigue. So what we're going to do is, you can do as many strict reps as you can. Then you're going to collect your sanity for 1 or 2 seconds, take a big breath. Then you're going to start to do the push press. until you can't do it. And maybe you can only do a half rep and maybe a quarter rep at the bottom, and then it's time to shut it down. So how I track these things is I only count the quality reps, and we try to progress on the quality strict reps, and then the post-failure work or the brutality work is after the strict. So would I do this on all sets? Probably not. I'd like to do a first set, a set the table set, and then maybe do that on the last set. Now you could do the first set and a back off set. So you can do a heavy set and then a back off intensity set. That would be a lot of fun. And I'm going to make a note on that for myself. We do a first set heavy and second back off intensity. So I'm just coming up with ideas and maybe want to put that into an official program. But I hope this makes sense. We want to be smart about this because we don't want to encourage beating up our connective tissue, but this is a good way to train. When would you recommend pushing all sets to max safe reps versus the only last set of an exercise? Well, it's very exercise specific. So first off, as a beginner, we need to have a period of time where we work on form, understand form, get over the neurological adaptation, and we become reasonably proficient with the exercise form for this lift, right? Then after that, when the weight is still relatively moderate, not super punishing, not super heavy, you could start to push 3 sets from max safe reps if you wanted to. It all depends on the exercise, what feels good for you, etc. We have to understand that the demands of every exercise are different. Pressing overhead or horizontal bench press is not as punishing to take towards failure as posterior chain movements. So posterior chain movements like squats, deadlifts, good mornings, Romanian deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, those are ones we don't want to push to failure. We want to leave a couple reps in the tank. We want to take care of our lower back. Rows, not all of them. Every exercise is different. A pendley row, when you try to take that to failure, you're going to hit a rep where the speed slows. And in your brain, you might not immediately notice this as a trainee, but at some point in your brain, you're going to be like, the speed slowing. That's form failure. That's failure. At that point, to get a rep up and to really get good back engagement, you would have to rock and cheat, right? So there's not a lot of punishment in things like the horizontal pressing and pulling when it comes to training to failure. Same with pull-ups. You can do pull-ups until you can't, right? And you're probably not going to be beat up. You can do lat pull-downs until they slow, and at that point, you'd have to cheat, but it's not very punishing. So for most exercises, you can take pretty deep on every set. But just understand every exercise is different. For me, curls are very hard for me to take to failure because they tend to punish my joints, my bicep tendons. It might not be the same case for you. So first you get over that neurological adaptation stage as a newbie. Then you make sure you really understand form and you get in a groove where you're progressively overloading and knowing how to train hard. And at that point, outside of posterior chain movements, squats, deads, RDLs, stiff leg deadlifts, good mornings, you could work 1, 2, or 3 sets for max safe reps on an exercise, depending on how they feel and how you feel. Does that make sense? So Joachim said, spam over, thank you. And I said, spam away, my friends. This is what I'm here for. The more questions, the better. All right, let me get a drink here. Let me get a drink. Keep it coming. All right. I got one of these magic lights just in my gym that I put up on the wall. And, oh, there it's red. You can't really see that. There it's red. I just had to charge it, so it's sitting here at my desk. I'll leave it on at night for the old mood lighting. Anyway. Oh, there we got blue. All right, let me turn this thing off. Yvonne from Team Massive, good morning. Glad to have you here. Dumbbells and donuts. Happy Team Massive. Happy Friday. Howdy, Team Massive. Happy Friday. Sorry. You can only do one exercise for each body part for the rest of time. Here we go with the hypotheticals. Now, you guys that know me know I don't like hypotheticals, but I'll entertain them anyway because he's a client. What are you picking and why? First off, I'm picking the fact that that'll never be the case, so this is a hypothetical. But we'll entertain the world with our response. You can only do one exercise for each body part. Quads, levered squats. Less punishing than squats, easier to go to depth, really good quad feel. Hammy whammies, probably leg curls, less punishing on the lower back, more enjoyable. Maybe glued ham raise on the back extension. I really like that. Chesticles. I am equally in love with dumbbell and barbell bench, so you're making me break up the menage a trois, right? And for that, I don't know. It's a split, maybe dumbbells. Overheads, got to be the pin press, just because the dumbbell overhead press I love. But when you get up to about 70 pounds, it's hard to get those dumbbells into place, and you almost have to switch to a single arm. I ran into that this week. I told you my bicep tendon was a little bit spotty from yard work, and then I had to do Arnold presses this week, and getting the 65s in a position put a lot of stress on that. So back, come on now, dumbbell rows. And because back, you got to work lats, I would probably do lat pull-downs because I suck at pull-ups. What am I missing? We got juicy chesticles. We got back and lats. We got shoulders. We got quad. We're good. Tricepticons. I really like my seated triceps push-down station. I love doing a lot of volume. I'm doing about 230 pounds on that sucker right now for 3 sets of 20. I love how it crushes my triceps. Curly whirlies. Probably a slight advantage to dumbbell curls. Big barbell Bryce. If I can do the same number of reps with the same weight on the third set compared to the first two, where the first two not counted as hard, don't overthink this stuff, right? This is the overthinking zone. We have to understand what our program is. Not every set needs to be pushed to the limit as long as one set in that exercise is driving the train forward. So if you are doing 180 for 3 sets of 10 on the bench, okay, let's say you start with 3 sets of 10 with 180 on the bench. Okay? So you do 10-10, you decide to do only the last set for max reps. You move it up to 12, you hit 12, and then you're going to move up to 185. So you're doing 10-10, and then maybe 8. So the last set is often the only one that's going to be compromised or not hitting 10. Do the first two have value? Yeah, because they're creating pre-fatigue, making that third set harder, but you're still progressing on that third set. Don't overthink this stuff because there's a program is like a painting. It's a work of art. It has complexity and nuance, right? Not every set needs to be pushed to the limit, but that doesn't mean the other sets don't have value. I often do 5 sets of 10 on bench. And the last set's right around failure at 10, 11, 9, 12 reps. Does that heavy volume not have value? It absolutely does. We like to create arbitrary rules in the world of hypertrophy that only these sets matter. It's not the case. Now, I'm not making the case for that volume is the be all end all, but if you are progressing on the overall volume that you're performing, weight times sets times reps of an exercise, and at least one set is pushed for max safe reps, because it has to be for you to progress over time. Then you're progressing in reps, you're progressing in volume, and you're training hard. Now, as you become an intermediate, late intermediate lifter, and you try to push every set heavy for as many reps as you can, you're going to punish yourself. Is the punishment going to be equal on every exercise? No. As we've stated over and over again, in the massive iron world, we know that the demands of every exercise are different. So pushing yourself to the limit on one exercise might be easier. I can push myself to the limit on every set of bench. It's much easier for me to do that than to push myself to the limit for every exercise on dumbbell curls, just because it beats up my bicep tendons. I don't know why. It does. So we have to deal with what we know. What I want to encourage you guys, the programs I give to my clients, at least 50% of sets are pushed for max safe reps, about. Okay? That doesn't mean the other volume doesn't matter. It does, because it's part of the equation, right? We're going hard, we're building volume, and then the last set with a little bit of fatigue, we're pushing for max safe reps. There's also the nuance of we're warming up our central nervous system for the first couple of sets. The first set might be more of a tester to make sure nothing in that area feels off on that given day. There are different levels of different degrees of value. Like when I am doing my first set, if I'm doing a 5x10 on bench, even though that first set is the furthest away from failure, it still carries with it value. I'm testing, how do things feel today? Okay, chest feels good, triceps feel good. And that first set is also kicking at my central nervous system, time to recruit more muscle fibers. This is heavier. The body doesn't just inherently recruit a maximal amount of muscle fibers out of the gate. You might know that you're going to ramp up heavier or harder in a workout. Your body isn't just going to magically go, oh, he's going to ramp up heavier in a workout. I'm going to recruit a maximum amount of muscle fibers. The body will remain efficient, right? It's not going to just recruit a maximum amount of muscle fibers if you're lifting your phone. Why would it? That's super inefficient. But if I lift this, it goes, okay, you just lifted your phone. We're going to recruit maybe 5% of the muscle fibers. Oh, now you just lifted 5 pounds. We're going to recruit 10%. You're waking up that central nervous system. If we ramp it up slowly, each set has value, even though it doesn't have overall impact on hypertrophy. It's warming up our central nervous system. So there's layers and complexities to training, right? There's different degrees of value. Some sets are waking up our central nervous system. Some sets are setting the degree of minimal fatigue. Some sets are teaching us, hey, all the muscle groups in this compound movement feel okay today, right? So always understand that hard training is the goal. But even on sets where I'm not pushing them to the limit, I'm getting everything I can out of every rep. Does that make sense? Dumbbells and donuts. How important is exercise order in the grand scheme of things? I like having 1 or 2 of my favorite lifts at the end. It depends. You just can't do heavy compounds after you have your triceps fatigue. I don't care what you like. There's a right and wrong way to do things. My children growing up liked to have a Little Debbie snack cake before dinner. I like. That's great. Is it the best for your health? No. So we have to apply that to lifting. We have to understand that what we like might not be the smartest thing in the world to do. Now, I don't know specifically what you're talking about. You can tell me and we can decide together. But there are certain things you don't want to do. You don't want to fatigue your lower back before doing deadlifts. You don't want to fatigue your biceps before doing deadlifts. It just unnecessarily increases the risk of a bicep tear. Does that make sense? Now, you could do leg extensions before squats. You'd probably have to lower the weight of a squat initially and then progress in that lane. You could do that. But I don't want to fatigue the triceps before doing bench work because I want the chest to really get hit as hard as it can with the heaviest amount of weight and the most intensity. Does that make sense? In your opinion, is muscle loss even a thing if taking you're going to start to lose a little bit of muscle. Generally, I mean, I'm not trying to make a rule, but you get about 3 or 4 weeks of training, there's going to be a slow decay. And it's going to accelerate a little bit. Now, how much you're going to lose, I don't know. But muscle memory is a real thing. I mean, you can't protein yourself and nutrition yourself into muscle retention. The body is not going to hold on to extra mass, supraphysiological degrees of muscle mass, just because you want it to and you're not training, right? So obviously I know you know that's not what you expect, but you're going to lose a little bit. The thing is, muscle memory is real. Those muscle cells have been fortified, and when you come back, you'll get it back even quicker right away. In a very short period of time. Happy Friday, Steve. Brought many questions once again. Thank you. How long should I run a program to see if it's right for me? Well, here's a bigger question to ask yourself. Program hoppers do this. They'll go into the gym, hear me out, because this is kind of the case. Unless it's really something they don't like, okay? Program hoppers will go in, they'll do like, bench, dumbbell bench. And then maybe they have a weird oddball protocol that they don't like on their 4th exercise of the day. And they'll go, I don't like this program, I'll hop programs. Right? So you have to ask yourself, is there a part of this program I could change? Is it the whole program I don't like, or is it just one small aspect? If it's just one, if it's like the whole, like you dive into a 5x5 and you realize you don't like 5x5s, then you have to change the program. Hey, what's going on? The dog's going to pee on my chair. Hello. She brought the dogs down. I like to pee on the chair. What's up, Bubba? Bubba, you're in 4K. Say something in 4K, Bubba. Whoa, picking them up. This is Chichi Marango in 4K. Dude, tongue way too deep, dude. Tongue way too deep. This is Chichi Marango, my little wiener. This is my wiener dog. He's my boy. We got to get you on here so people can see you. Sorry, my wife's down here with all of our dogs. Chichi here in 4K. Say something in 4K. What you going? Oh, you doing, buddy? This is my buddy. We watched the basketball game last night. He's my good boy. I think my wife disappeared. All right.
No, I was just continuing.
I got to get back to the questions.
I'm going.
Okay.
Oh, that's green. Another one.
This is Bluey Skidooey.
Oh, he gets scared. He gets nerves.
Watch yourself.
Oh, I'm going.
We don't want you to fall out in 4K.
And here's big old.
This is Snoopy. He's the guard dog. He's the big horse. How you doing, Snoopy poopers? How you doing, Snoopy? Snoopy's a good boy.
Okay, well, I'm going.
Okay, have fun.
Woo.
She's going to get a windshield put in her car.
Yes.
Bubba, don't. All right, sorry, guys. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? We were at the question, how long should I run a program? Again, there's two reasons to switch a program. There's two things that irritate you about a program. Number one, the whole mechanisms of a program. Like I jumped into a 5x5 program and I found out I don't like a 5x5 program. So what you could do at that point is you could change the lift, that's a 5x5, to something you do like, or you could just get off the program. I don't want you to stay in a program you don't like. If there's one small aspect of a program where you focus more on evolving programs based on needs. Hey, the program says do 8 reps on pendlay rows. I hate 8 reps. I like 6. Change it. Who cares if you're changing the program if it's a reasonable change? Back in the day, you had some coaches that would get their, as my mom would say, undies in a bundle, right? Don't get your undies in a bundle. That's what my mom used to say. I don't know if your mom ever said that, but if she did, just drop undies in the bundle in the comments and make me feel better, right? So there are some coaches back in the day that would be like, follow the program. Like the old school rip-a-toe type guys. I think I remember being, just follow, you're not following the program, right? Follow the program. Right. You might have program, right? But, that's not the way we work in Massive Iron World. If there's an aspect of the program, we want you to change it as long as it's reasonable. Because we are not tethered to a program, because turn your sound down, I'm about to swear. We have a principle in the Massive Iron World called fuck your program. Okay? Now, some people misunderstand this as to mean programs don't matter. And I say programs don't matter. Specific programs don't matter as long as they're reasonable. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Whatever program you're on, if there's a variable and you can want to change it to a reasonable degree, we can. Does that make sense? So, but if you don't like something that's the big driving mechanism of the program, get off it immediately. And Dumbbells and Donuts says, in England, we say knickers and a twist. It's about the same thing. Yeah, it's about the same thing. All right. Are back squats the only squat pattern you're recommending not train to failure? I would not train any posterior movement to failure, really. And posterior chain, we're talking about back squats, front squats, safety squat bar, good mornings, Romanian deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, deadlift, variations. Leg presses are not a posterior chain movement. They're not the same style of posterior. They're not really a posterior chain movement. You don't have the weight load on your back, so to speak. Front squats, no, I would not train a failure. And Bulgarians, you know what? Everything we do, we train for maximum safe quality reps. That's the rule in the Massive Iron World. Maximum safe quality reps. So always let that be your guiding post, okay? Like, I don't want to make a rule because every exercise is different. The second I make a rule outside of just posterior chain movements is the second we get ourselves in trouble. That's what the rest of the fitness world does. That's what the rest of the influencers do. Lengthen partials, make a rule, right? You like my singing? But that's what they do. We don't want to do what they do, right? So what we do, we're smarter. Not me, you guys. We're smarter than that. We realize the demands of every exercise are different. So instead of making an arbitrary rule that we apply to every exercise, like train all exercises to failure, right? Because we're a mindless idiot and we apply the same rule to everything because there's no nuance and we're idiots. That's them. We're not going to do that. We are going to say the demands of every exercise are different. So what we do is we create guidelines, what I call pillars of success. We push sets for maximum safe quality reps. What does that mean? It's exercise dependent. Make sense? Big Joe B. What's your opinion during a cut on a carb refeed day? Again, more overthinking. The goal of a short-term cut is to get the cut over. What are you refeeding for? What are you restoring glycogen? So you can run around on day 7 and go, I feel like a machine and I have more replenished glycogen today, but I just ate 800 more grams of carbs or 800 more calories of carbs. Now I made my cut harder. And now I just pulled in water retention and the scale jumped up and I just aggravated myself. No. If you're morbidly obese, just get the cut over with, right? If you're on a short-term cut, what's the goal here, right? I'm not coming at you, Joe. I'm just saying in general, what's the goal of all this refeeding and adding to the muscle glycogen? So you can feel better for a day? All it's going to do is draw out the cut. Now we have to spend more days on the cut. And now we just had 200 extra grams of carbs, which is 800 extra calories, which is a metric shit ton of calories on a cut. No. What is the point? If we are going to be on a cut, one thing we need to understand is the goal of a cut is what? To cut. There are 2 types of cuts. Number 1, and I'm saying this with love because this was me. I was Blubby McBlubberton, 346 McFatties, okay? I don't need a refeed day. I had a refeed 15 years. My goal is to save my life, right? Guys like that start to go down the rabbit trail of trying to refeed and this and that and maximize muscle retention. Dude, you need to save your life. Let's get the big object off the road. That doesn't mean I want you to train like an idiot. Now we have the other form of cut, which is a short-term cut. The goal of the short-term cut is to get it over with so we can get back to building. There are many people that fear a cut, like, I want to try to build during cut. I want to try to maximize the cut so I can maximize. You're not going to lose muscle during your cut as long as you're lifting. You're going to feel glycogen depleted, so what? You want a cut to feel easy? Maybe check yourself into a spa. Get your toenails done, right? Maybe get pampered. Maybe get one of those broccoli haircuts that all these kids have. Go in there and maybe get your hair dyed blue like the popcorn or the cotton candy crew. Feel lovely. The goal of a cut is to get the cut over with. So no, we don't need any of that stuff. You have building stages and we have cutting stages. The goal of a cutting stage is to get the cut over with. You're not going to really build muscle during a short-term cut. We don't want to over-optimize the cut for muscle building when the goal of a cut is to over-optimize the cut for cutting. Does that make sense? Now, you can structure your meals so your workouts can be a little bit more palatable. We have to worry about our sodium timing so we are not under-consuming sodium and potassium, so we have as much energy as we can. Those are electrolytes. You could time your carbs, so you have a little bit of carbs 2.5 to 3 hours before your workout, so you don't go in completely depleted. And then post-workout, on a cut, that's when I like to do my complex carbs, like an hour and a half after my workout. You can maximize the way you put the pieces of the puzzle on the board during a cut to make the road as least amount of bumpy as possible. But doing this like there's no point in it. Do you typically recommend the high bars on hex? Yes. The reason why I do so is because the main advantage of using a hex bar is to have a little bit more of a leverage advantage. The bar is over the center of your body. Now, you could do the low handles if you want. I don't, I'm going to say for hypertrophy and the average person that's not doing a conventional deadlift that they should start with the higher handles on the hex bar. That'll still work your upper back and your yoke. You can build strength on that. And then once you get pretty strong-ish on that, then if you want to start playing around with the lower handles, go ahead. But let's get strong. Let's get our lower back strong on the higher handles. Let's get our form down. And then we can start to play around with a low or even conventional deadlift. Does that make sense? All right, guys, we're an hour in. I'm going to get a drink. I appreciate every question. All right. I tried your bulldozer rest pause protocol on my push downs. Whoops. It's 16 reps, but after reaching failure on that set, all four of my other sets, yeah, it's fine. That's the way it works. That's normal. That's what you want. You're going to see a depreciation in reps. That's what you want. If not, the weight's probably too light. Absolutely perfect. Because if you do 16 and you have 4 and 5, 4 and 5, 4 and 5, or whatever, on your a bulldozer rest pause protocol, for those of you guys watching, is 5 rest pause sets. You hit it hard, you rest about 15, 20 seconds, hit it hard, and repeat for 5 mini sets. It's like one big prolonged set. So if you do 16 and then 5, 5, 4, 4, that's 34 total reps. The equivalent of 3 sets by 11-ish. But every rep, or the overall rep quality in this scheme, is higher than 3 sets by 11. Because the first several reps in a set are the easiest ones. But here, in rest pause, you're going to beat a muscle group down. And then before it has a chance to recover, you're beating it down again. You're just being very cruel, right, to your muscle group. Does that make sense? Only worry about that top set. You're going to see a decrease. That's the way it should be. Is the lube split basically push A, pull, push B legs? Okay. Lube is a split I came up with. We have the upper posterior in the massive iron world. Upper is chest, shoulders, and arms. Posterior is legs and back, more chest, more posterior focus. Why do I do legs and back rather than upper lower? Because on the upper lower, it sounds good on paper, but it's really silly. Who wants, number one, if you want to do this, hey, I'm not offending you. If you want to do 2 lower body leg days a week and then cram all your upper body work in the other 2 days, go ahead. Even though it sounds nice, like some things sound tidy and neat, but then in the real world, you're like, is that really the best way to do things? Programming upper lower has always aggravated me because, number one, I don't want 2 big full leg days a week. And you end up having to do that because you got to cram stuff in there to actually get the workout to an hour, right? You know what I'm saying? And now I got to do chest and back and shoulders and arms and traps and rear delts and tibias and forearm curls and neck, whatever you're doing. On the upper day, like, nah, I'm good. So what I did was I took all the brain cells I had left and I created an upper posterior. Upper is chest, shoulder, arms. Posterior is legs and back. So I'm setting the table to tell you what a lube split is. The posterior days are brutal, legs and back. You can have your leg, you can have your squats one day and your deadlifts the next, and you're doing like leverage squats and lunges and pendlay rows and dumbbell. They can be pretty brutal. Some people don't like the upper posterior because of that. So what we do is we take the posterior, which is legs and back, and we split them up in their own days. So you have upper A, instead of having upper posterior, what we do is we have upper legs, upper back. Okay? How's that turn into a loop? Legs, L, upper, U, back, B, extra upper. We had to give it something, an acronym, right? Lube. And why wouldn't we want to use massive lube? Why in the world would you, if you're going to train, would you not want to use massive lube? So it just sounded good. And you know what? A little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's easier to remember than saying lubu, lower, upper, back, upper B, lubu. Like, who wants to do a massive lubu? It sounds like some weird dance that no one wants to do at a wedding. Let's all do the lubu. Like, no, I am not doing the lubu, but I will drink your free beer. I'm not doing the lubu. I'm not going to get in the thing and do the train and do the kick with the leg and do the limbo, thimbo, schlimbo. I'm going to do the massive lube. Okay, enough humor aside. So you had push, pull, push legs. It's basically push back, push legs, but same thing. The pull and legs frequency still enough. You're worried about frequency. You're living in a world where frequency is everything. Weekly volume is everything. You need to get out of that frequency world because it's not true. Now, listen, guys, I go over this every week, and I'm going to go over it this week because I want to get you guys out of the cult of frequency. The only reason frequency was elevated over body part splits was because of what the science had indicated. What we found out 2-3 years ago was the reason there was a tendency to elevate frequency, why frequency on paper looked like it was outperforming body part splits, is because when we looked at it, we realized the frequency workouts inherently had more weekly volume programmed into them. If you do the same, what we found out is if you look at the science, if you do the same amount of weekly volume, doesn't matter what the frequency is, you're going to get the same result. This is what the real world tells us in the last 50, 60 years of lifting. I don't care how you lift, body part split or frequency, but you're caught in the world where frequency is king. It's not. I'm not going to try to convince you of that. But on the other hand, you have to decide for yourself. If you are so paranoid that frequency is king, and I'm not making fun of you, then don't do it. Okay? I'm not trying to convince anybody. You guys do your research, because Paul Carter, because Brad Schoenfeld, because all the major voices at one point 2-3 years ago said, you know what the research says? That if volume is equated, same amount of weekly volume, it doesn't matter. What these guys were doing when they were programming, when they were studying frequency programs, is that they had more bias. There was volume bias. They didn't realize they were doing it. So you're going to have the same amount of weekly volume either way. In any of my workouts, you're going to have the same amount of weekly volume. All right. So real quick, Samuel Jones says, why do my questions disappear? YouTube. I wish there was some other reason other than YouTube. It's not me. Sometimes your questions are too long and YouTube makes them disappear. Sometimes they contain words that YouTube doesn't like. I'll tell you what, though, guys, this has been going on. I've been doing these forever, and it's not me. I'll tell you that. I don't have like a third arm over here, like monitoring things, and like, I don't like that question. I'm not doing that at all. So I just want you guys to know that try shortening your questions. Look, I'm going to be honest. I've been doing YouTube forever, and it pisses me off because 25% of the comments, people come here and their comments don't show. They think I'm hiding them, or I don't like them, or God knows what. It's frustrating as a creator, but I wish I had the kind of power to, other creators will tell you it's the same thing. It just endlessly goes on with YouTube. Excuse me. Too much carbonation. I'm sorry, man. But what I tell folks is, if it doesn't go through, try shortening it. Head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman. Join TeamMassiveIron.com. I'd love to connect with you guys outside of this world. I'm so thankful for YouTube because it's given me this business, but it is super wonky, and I apologize. All right, where are we at? I got to find the question. I lost track of where we were. Big Joe B. If deadlift had to be removed for whatever reason, is there an alternative home gym exercise? Back work. Whenever you're going to remove a deadlift, you're going to remove another back. You're going to replace it with another back exercise. So that's always make sure to state that there is no replacement for the deadlift. That doesn't mean we can't build muscle without it. The deadlift is a unique exercise. It's what I call a unicorn lift, right? You can't replace it. It's like one of a kind. That doesn't mean you need it in your program. Does that make sense? So just make sure you get in enough back work, dumbbell rows, barbell rows, seated cable rows, meadows rows, T-bar rows. And you could do a lot of power shrugs as its replacement, as long as you have enough back work, or you can add another back exercise. Barbell Beauty, Team Massive. What do you think is the biggest factor that prevents people from being consistent? Lack of passion. Or they want the results, but they don't like the process. There is a difference. Let's be clear here. Not all lifting is the same. Okay, and this is not a criticism of anybody in the gym. I respect anybody in the gym lifting weights, exercising, taking care of themselves to whatever degree. Any form of resistance training is good for the body and good for health. But there are two forms of resistance training. You have the person that goes to the gym for 10 years and picks up the 25-pound curls and does 3 sets of 10, and they never progress. Is it useless? No. They're keeping their bone density a little bit stronger. They're doing some good things. They're retaining a minimal degree of muscle mass. They're fighting muscle wasting as they age. They're doing good stuff. That type of training, though, is not the same type of training we do. What we do is more challenging. We are not better than them, but we're also not just going into the gym every week for the next 10 days and doing the same 25 pounds for 3 sets of 10 on curls. What we do gets progressively more mentally challenging. As a squat gets heavier, we have to dial in more. We have to focus more. It becomes more mentally demanding. And that's where so many people fall away, because they did not sign up for that. They want a little bit of strength, a little bit of sports performance, but they didn't sign up to have that big barbell on their back doing a deep knee bend. I didn't sign up for this, right? So we're not criticizing them. That's just not what they signed up for, right? We are passionate about that process. You are. I know Barbell Beauty. She's from Team Massive. She's passionate about that process. If I made you just go to the gym and do 135-pound squats for 3 sets of 5, you would hate it because now you're doing what they do. It's something different. You would probably stop going to the gym if that's all you could do. You'd be like, what am I doing? What's the point? So we have to understand there's 2 different types of, and this is a super simplification of lifters. And let's not be mistaken. We should celebrate all activity, especially in this day and age of morbidly obese chaos. You see a lot of people in the lifting community go chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. He never adds weight. Yes, I understand. It's kind of fun when we gather as our community because we have different goals and we know that our goals are going to help us build muscle and get stronger and look better and be more functional. But that's not put other people down. Now, if that person thinks, sometimes, so here's where the problem comes in. That person thinks that what they're doing is going to build 20 pounds of muscle. And it's not. There's no progressive overload. They're not really going to build any more muscle than they have right now. But when that person thinks it will, that's when we're trying to kind of save them, so to speak. Hey, no, this is the way it goes. And then when they try what we're doing, because we're a little bit you have to be a little bit like to do what we do, right? They'll make us better, but we're a little bit we're a little bit cuckoo, right? We go to bed thinking of +1s on our next tomorrow. I'm going to +1 on my squat. How many of you have been lying in bed thinking about tomorrow's workout as opposed to thinking about it for just maybe for a split second? Because my brain probably goes back to sex. We know you're human. But at some point, you're lying in bed thinking of tomorrow's workout. We're a little bit whereas they didn't sign up for that. So this person might be over here doing 3 sets of 10 with 25 pounds on the dumbbell curl. And they might come join Team Massive and get a custom workout, or they might sign up for coaching. And I say, you got to do this, and you got to push here, and you got to do this. And they get in the gym, and they're like, that's the exact face they get, like, they don't take a selfie of that. But that's what they're thinking. And then they quit. So I know that's an oversimplification, but I think it's pretty much close, right? If my bench is 125 for 12 now, where do you think it would be in a year? It could be at 200 for at least 5. You just nail your nutrition. There's no reason it can't be. Stein, how's it going, Big Stein? Big, hairy, ugly dude, is there a certain base level that you have to be at to participate? No. The beautiful thing about powerlifting, and the thing I try to pass along to people, is if you have an interest, go compete. It's generally a super supportive community. It's not about what your strength levels are. It's really about celebrating the passion for strength. And this might sound all floofy poofy to people that have never been to a powerlifting meet, but you take that group of people that are thinking about +1s in bed the next day. And when they hit the +1 in the gym, sometimes they get teary-eyed. I've been there 100%. Like, this isn't fucking around for me. I'm so passionate, and I've had the same passion on completing trail marathons. I get teary-eyed sometimes thinking about it. I accomplished it. This means something to me. I feel alive. This is part of my being and my fiber. Doesn't make me better than somebody, Some people get teary-eyed binge watching Friends. Breaking Bad can't be over. But you get that group of people that's like for plus ones, and you get them together at a meet, and it's kind of like a big celebration and motivational group, big stuff, encouragement, motivation, celebration. There are people that fail, and it's get them next time. But it is generally a positive thing, unless you have somebody running that meet that or that's turning it into a bad experience, which is pretty rare. But it is a celebration more than it is a competition. It certainly feels great for the 80% that reach their goals that they set at a meet, and the other 20% usually want to do it again. Let's get it. Super motivating. But no, it's not about the weight. I tell people, don't worry about the weight. Go compete. It's going to be, there's a 95% chance you're going to absolutely love it, and it's going to motivate you even more. I've seen things at competitions I can't even begin to tell you about. Walk in, you see people doing that. You're like, what? You're like, what? You're like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what did I just see? 70-year-olds deadlifting 550. Women, house moms benching 250. You're like, what? Right. It's super motivating. And it raises your standards as well. And if you have that in your blood, it's only a good thing. Big JJ, good morning, big hairy ugly dude and Team Massive. It's the 5th day that I dropped calories, dropped weight about 5 pounds. Well, 2,700 is a rough road for most men to lose weight at, but you could lose weight. As long as the weight loss is continuing to drop, I would not rush to lower calories, but I would weigh yourself every single day. And if you hit 3 days where you stop losing calories, then we might drop it 100, but that's not a rush to drop it. Does that make sense? Should I join Team Massive? I think you should, man. I mean, I'm never, it's not like we make money off this. It costs me $150 a month to keep Team Massive up. That comes out of my pocket. I can show you the receipts if you want. There is a gatekeeping fee of $4.99 a month, or you can pay a one-time fee and get it for lifetime. This helps contribute to pay the bills. But I don't want anybody to join that doesn't want to be there. If you're tired of Facebook and you want a community that's positive and doesn't have trolls or whatever, join Team Massive. Some people don't interact with the community. That's fine. Some people come for form checks. That's fine. I'm here to help you. Do form checks with your workout questions. The biggest thing that breaks my heart is when somebody joins and doesn't ask for help, because I want to help people. That's what I do. That's what I get up the day I wake up and no one says, the day I wake up and the entire internet says, we don't want your help anymore. That's the day when I know I just, pack it in. Right. I'm not going to press you guys, but look, if you want a really good community, we have it. I wish it was 3 times as big as it was. A new blood always keeps the community rolling along. All right, where are we at? Let me find where we were at. Justin Jones. Would I lose anything by only doing presses for chest during the cut? Well, you don't have to do flies. No way. I mean, dropping an isolation movement during a cut is pretty safe. If you dropped all your compounds, I'd probably have it's a big one, heart attack. Barbell beauty. How does the incline bench target the upper chest compared to the front delts? And can you program incline benching on shoulder day? Well, it would have to depend on if you have a shoulder day. Sometimes on shoulder days, we use it as a day to program in an extra bench exercise. But an incline bench is really only 20, 25 degrees. It's going to have about the same amount of front delt involvement, maybe a hair less than the flat bench, because you're starting to call into play. As the angle goes up, you're calling into play more of the side delts to a degree, right? To a degree. It's a spectrum. It's not a switch. So what I typically do is alternate, like incline dumbbell one week, dumbbell the next. You could work it in on your shoulder day. You could do your military press and then your incline, but incline's only 20, 25 degrees. Is 1 gram protein per pound of body weight good enough? I don't like body weights. I don't like assigning protein intake to body weight. It's arbitrary. If you weigh 135 and you want to get up to 185 pounds of mass and you're eating 4,000 calories a day but only 130 grams of protein, you'd have to be stuffing macaroni and cheese and carbotrons in your mouth like crazy. It's arbitrary, right? Hey, big hairy ugly dude, the number you give out's arbitrary as well. Well, I'm not tethering it to pounds of body weight. I'm giving you a reasonable scale based on experience. Men generally want at least 150 grams a day. 170 to 190 is better, and 200 and above is based on personal preference. This is based off the male metabolism, dietary balance, and having a reasonable amount of protein intake relative to your muscle building goals. Big Jonathan. Happy Friday. Had a great talk on Team Massive about worry. What would you say is a good daily mental checklist to limit worry about training and nutrition? Number one, you want to ground yourself with content that doesn't worry you. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about worry lately when it comes to lifting and nutrition, because so much content we digest worries us unnecessarily. Is that good content? It's for you to decide. But the heart of lifting and nutrition is that it's not that complicated. Nutrition. Eat mostly animal and plant-based. 80% of your foods. Have a little bit of fun here and there. Have a little tequila. Have a little Debbie. Have a little ice cream. Live a little. Nutrition's not that complicated. Well, you have rules out there. You need to have 1 gram per pound of whatever, and you need to carb reload and all this. No. That's just creating unnecessary worry. The body's not that fragile, and it's not that complicated. If you want to build muscle, check out the Massive Iron Bulking System. Everything's grounded in simplicity. It's not complicated. Training is not complicated. It doesn't make it easy, but it's not complicated. So a good daily checklist is to surround yourself with content that doesn't worry you. Like, I'm going to go back to a few questions from Joe B earlier in the feed. Joe B watched some content that told him you have to have 60 grams of protein And then we got in discussions about you can't undereat fats. Joby didn't say that, but there's worry content. People come to me, 80% of the questions I get is about worrying. I'm worrying. I heard somebody say I got to do this exercise. I shouldn't go under this as far as grams of fat a day. I have to stick my protein intake to my body weight. Now, I'm not going to say good content doesn't have some worry. But what I want to encourage you guys is to seek content that says it's not that difficult, but it's not that easy. If you meet somebody that is saying that, you can likely trust them. They're likely money in the bank. Because when we look back at the last 70 years of lifting, we see lifters training with all different kinds of training styles. Full body, upper lower, push-pull legs, whatever. Training style doesn't matter. Specific exercise selection doesn't matter as long as it's a reasonable grouping of exercises. But when we get people worried about training split, we get people worried about a specific exercise. Oh no, I can't get rid of deadlifts or I'll die. Oh no, I must do a frequency training or I'll die. This is toxic. It steals your time. It makes you worry. So I'm just going to say, when you find somebody that is trying to take that burden away from you, instead of giving you more burden, in this video, I'm going to show you why the bench press is the worst thing you could ever do, and your balls are going to fall off. The views, you can just see them rising and rising. While they're creating worry, profiting off your worry. Maybe they're sincere, okay? That's fine. Maybe they're sincere and believe if you bench, your nuts are going to fall off. Excuse my humor. But you like to bench. And you know, every lifter you likes to bench. You know your balls aren't going to fall off. You don't need to be consuming that person's content. I'm not demonizing them. I'm not saying they're a bad person. They probably send their mom a nice Mother's Day card. But you asked, what should we do mentally to stay out of the quicksand so we don't worry? Don't consume content from people that are fueling this worry. Now, you could say, hey, big, hairy, ugly dude, you've done that over the years. Everybody does it to a degree. What I'm saying, I'm not specifically trying to invoke worry. What I'm saying is, follow content producers that try to take the burden from you. Don't worry. It's not complicated. Here's the system. Everything I outline is a specific system, a specific structure. Here's how many sets per workout you need, how to figure out weekly volume, how to figure out your exercise selection. Right? Everything I do is trying to teach and educate and take worry away from you by giving you plans and structures and options. Does that make sense? Like if I came on here and said, don't you dare bench press. Your nipples are going to invert. Right? And like, okay, well, what do I do? I'm confused. Why is everybody else benching? I'm confused. So, a mental checklist to limit worry. That's a foundation. Number 2, surround yourself with a good community. I can't stress this enough. Being part of something, a good community that's about what you're about, is great from a motivational standpoint. Does that make sense? It'll provide you with a series of checks and balances every time you get astray. Shelly Turner, Member of the Month, Team Massive. Each month we vote on Member of the Month. Shelly won Member of the Month. Congratulations, Shelly. Have we rounded up the usual suspects? That and a few unusual. Come join our unusual suspect. Amanda P. Should training really change once you hit 40? No. Put the pitchforks down. I see two of you with pitchforks. Should training really change over the age of 40? No. He said no. Get him. No, training should evolve. One of the pillars of success in the massive iron world is evolve your training based on needs. Do I train the same way I did when I'm 30? No. There are little changes. Did I wake up one day and said, I'm 40. It's time to be a weak-ass bitch and train differently? No. Hey, I'm 50. I need to train differently? No. We evolve training based on needs. That's one of the pillars of success in the massive iron world. Does that make sense? We don't arbitrarily say, I'm old AF today. I need to change something. I need to not squat because somebody said when you're over 50, the worst exercise, here are the 3 worst exercises for people over the age of 40. Number 1, don't ever squat. Your nuts will fall off. There's a video out there like that, similar. You know what you've probably seen it. This is silly. If you're squatting fine and you hit 40, then keep squatting. Until you wake up one day and something feels off and you can't squat. Then we evolve training based on needs. We evolve training based on what's happening in the gym, not our age. Does that make sense? These people that make videos like 10 exercises people over the age of 50 should never do. Like, do you even lift, man? I mean, seriously. This nonsense derivative content is ridiculous. It's great for getting views, but it's just nonsense. We evolve our training as we age. I got news for you, folks. We all end up under a headstone or in an urn. And if that's shocking news for you, and along the way, we can't sustain ourselves because the inevitable is coming. I can't be at age 75 what I was at 19. I'm not trying to depress you. That's inevitability. That's the cycle of life. That's where we all go. I'm not trying to pretend that we will be able to perform the same as we can then the day before our ticket is punched as we could when we're 19. What I'm saying is keep fighting. Keep doing what you can do and don't change it because some doctor, some internet schmuck tells you 6 exercises that you should never do once you reach 45. Now, I wanted to be a little bit juvenile and raise the flags to these people, but I won't. I just did. Are upright rows a good alternative to face pulls? Upright rows are a minor trap builder. Face pulls hit the traps from a different way, right? You have different aspects of hitting the traps. But face pulls tend to be more of a rear delt focus movement. I would rather see do rear delt swings, reverse pec deck, bent over flies, that sort of thing. Big Paul, how's it going, Big Paul? Good to see you. First 3 weeks of cut down 14 pounds, like a champion. Tips to dig in and get down another 5 pounds. I think when you are, I will say it seems easy. It seems easy. It seems obvious. It does. When people get to, here's the thing, when people get to about 80% of their cut, almost there. And I see this over and over again in coaching, not with everybody, but with maybe a third of people. I'm being arbitrary. You will see people get almost there and they relax. I've seen guys go from 280 to 190. I know a specific client of mine. This guy I worked with 3 years ago. Went from 280, got down to 190. He wanted to get down to 175. And we kind of did, it wasn't arbitrary. We determined this because he wanted to see a certain look, and we're almost there, 15 pounds away. For a year, he bounced between 190 and 200. Never bulking, wasting that opportunity to build muscle, never losing the last 10 pounds-ish. So some people reading your question be like, hey, Paul, you're almost there. Just get it over with, right? It's not always that easy. What you need to do is you need to have a talk with yourself. Catch your breath. Maybe go out maintenance for 3-4 days. Catch your breath until you feel ready to run. And then you need to let the plumber know, and the wife know, and the kids know, and the boss know, and everybody know, the bus driver. I'm going in full force until I get this done. Lock their kids in their room. Tell the dog to take himself out. Tell the boss I'm not working. Right? But you need to have that I'm going in hard mentality. I'm going in bold. You get to the point where you're almost there, and it's easy to get, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Have a little bit of ice cream. I'm almost there. Let's have a couple drinks. We'll get her tomorrow, Bob. No, it's got to be the opposite. You got to wake up like Rocky Balboa at 5 a.m., chugging raw eggs, chasing chickens around the yard, doing sit-ups, hanging off of rafters until you get to 5 pounds down. That's my best advice for you. HD6, skills. Hey, Steve, is it weird to only progress on first exercise, then the following just stall? Yeah, but I'll tell you, it's not going to be that case. It's not weird, but it's going to be a different case every workout. And if it happens for a string of workouts, you're building probably a little bit of conditioning, muscle endurance, and then it'll eventually change. Just always focus on hard training, right? Focus on hard training, you'll be all right. It'll come around. Mr. Webster, cutting sucks. Indeed it does. Incline dumbbell bench press alternative. Regular dumbbell bench, decline dumbbell bench, floor bench. You don't have to have an incline. But really, if you're going to think about swapping them out, you want probably an equivalent, a dumbbell bench variation. Some great questions. We've had a good live so far, and we're an hour and 45 minutes in. We got some time to go. So we're going to run long and strong today. Just keep your questions coming. What brand is your leverage squat? I use a Titan. I have no affiliation with them. It's just a good piece of machinery. So I'm always hesitant about recommending something else because I use a Titan leverage squat. So I only speak from what I know. Seriously, anyone on the fence about hiring Steve as a coach, just bleep and do it. Thank you, sir. Everyone who does just wishes they'd have done so sooner, including myself. Thank you. I can't tell you enough how much that means to me. It does. I just won Coach of the Year with the largest coaching app in the World Trainer Eyes. I'm not trying to blow my horn. It caught me off guard. I get to speak conference in June as a trainer. Like me, what? But I care about people. I do. And am I the right coach for everybody? Probably not. But if you're watching, you probably are. I want to take on about 5 or 10 more clients right now, just to get that big push till the app is released. So if you're interested and you're not sure, let me know. Brian, what is meant by if you can see your abs in the context of body fat, in your opinion? I don't know. I know it really doesn't matter. Okay, so you have to kind of have some generalizations, right? And the generalization I get for men is if you can't see moobie fat, man boob fat, you can't see love handle fat or lower belly fat or really lower back fat, then you're at about 18%. You're not super lean yet. You just got rid of all the stuff, right? As John Madden would say, we got rid of all the stuff. No man boob fat, no belly fat, no love handle fat, no lower back fat. Then you're probably at 18%. You don't have abs yet, but you are headed in the right direction. That's what I would consider lifting lean. That's bulking lean. That's a good place to be. Seeing your abs, you're going to have to get down another 10, 20 pounds from there, probably get pretty lean. So I hope that helps. Are you planning a UK trip this year? We'll see what happens. I have a friend, a good friend. I'm the godfather to his 2 twin boys. I've known him since I think he was 10. He has a brain issue that is very bizarre. Good guy, family. He just started falling asleep while he was driving, and they couldn't figure out why for the longest time. And he had to go into long story short, he had to go into some specialty specialists. And they couldn't find it. And eventually they figured out he had a leak in his brain, fluid. So they found it, and that's a good thing. But they don't, we're going to do he's speaking at a convention. I'm not going to mention where, but I'm going to take some time and drive him down there. We're going to spend some time together. And that came up. So once that is done, I'm going to start looking at the fall. Speaking very generally, which kind of exercise benefit from high weight, low reps? There's really no reason for any of us to do low reps below 5. If you like lower reps on a specific exercise like dead squats, bench, by all means. Usually 5 to 8 can be a little bit more palatable, but I wouldn't necessarily do them on all sets. But no exercise is going to benefit. The only benefit you're going to get is if you like training that low. But I wouldn't do it for hypertrophy. And I wouldn't do it for strength until you're pretty strong. Something like I can still see my abs at 18%. Okay, we're just following up on Brian's previous question. So I mentioned if you don't see your belly fat, moob fat, love handle fat, and lower back fat, you're at about 18%. You probably need to lose 10 to 20 pounds from there to start seeing your abs to a degree. Moose, thank you for the donation. I'm always remembering your key phrase, doesn't really matter as long as you stay consistent and try progressing. Holds true in overall life. It does. It really does. Anything I've ever conquered to whatever you deem to be a successful level has always been about consistency. I'm the slowest runner in the world, but I ran 100 kilometers for my birthday, 52nd birthday. And I never try to be the fastest runner. That's the way I've been lifting. I worked at Muscle and Strength and helped them build their website and their business, and then I helped Tiger Fitness, and I did my own site, Muscle and Brawn. Did anybody really believe in me? Not really, but I just always applied this: get up, one step forward, get up, one step forward, get up, one step forward. Did I ever think I'd be here? Somehow, as coach of the year, I can't tell you how much that means to me. Like, I never set out to win anything. I just set out to put food on my family. And to find out one day you beat out 400,000 other coaches on the app as coach of the year. Like, I like to sit here and pretend it doesn't mean anything to me. But man, when you look back at your life and you won a Super Bowl, hell yeah, it means something. Especially when you didn't even know you're playing for it. So I think all of us have people in our lives that doubt us, don't believe in us. I look back when I was a machinist, there was people that thought I was just didn't like me. You always have somebody at those types of jobs that don't. Probably never thought I'd be where I am today, and that's fine. They didn't have to believe in me. But I'll tell you what, if you remain consistent in life, you can go to amazing places. I absolutely live the dream, folks. I do. Every day of my life I'm super thankful. And I'm not trying to bore you to death and go down some sappy road. But I got to give you guys 2 minutes of a sermon. I came from a family where my dad was super abusive. He was an alcoholic. Just an abusive childhood. And when I was 8, my dad came over and wanted to kill us. He walked, you could hear him walking 2 streets. He had moved to an apartment or a house 2 blocks away. And he called and said, I'm going to come kill you all. And you could hear the shotgun blasts. He kept firing them off into the sky as he approached. My sisters and my mom and my aunt, who happened to be there, ran upstairs. And he entered the front door, and my dad's 6'4". He's a monster of a man. And he sat on the couch and he gave me the shotgun. I was an 8-year-old boy, and he kept screaming for me to kill him. Kill me, kill me. And eventually the cops showed, and he ran out and got in a melee with about 8 of them and spent the night in jail, and they let him out. That's the way things were in the 70s. But that sums up my childhood. You didn't have to pay child support. It was the 70s. We didn't have a lot of food to eat. We literally didn't, man. We survived on bologna and cheese sandwiches, and when the bologna was gone, we'd have cheese sandwiches, and when the cheese was gone, we'd have ketchup sandwiches. And don't cry for me, but that's where I came from. My mom didn't have any money to fix her house, her roof, and when it rained, literally, it poured in the house, front and back. I have a song that I wrote called Black Rain, and I think in some ways it's about my childhood. And finally she got a grant after like 5-6 years and was able to fix the roof. But that was our childhood, man. I had like 2 T-shirts and no food, and she didn't even have a car. We walked everywhere. My mom used to walk 5 miles to see my Little League game. A little choked up thinking about it. Like, I didn't have anything. And I'm sitting here right now with the most beautiful wife in the world and living a dream. Living like coach of the year and doing this for a living and getting to talk about living for a living. And I just built a house. I'm not rich, right? But man, it's like I am so thankful every day. Every day I wake up and I have Team Massive to go to. You guys are truly my safety blanket. Like, you're my comfort blanket. Like, I'm so thankful for you guys because there's a community. And not that it's my community, it's our community. I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so thankful to be able to help people for a living because lifting taught me I have power. Lifting taught me that there are some things I can control if I just get up and take a step forward every day. And I did when nobody fucking believed in me. And no one owes you shit. I know that. But still, it can sting. And it taught me, just take a step forward, just take a step forward, just take a step forward. And now that I'm in the position where it has given me everything, lifting has given me everything. It has equipped me from a mental strength standpoint. It has given me a house and a career. Not just a job, but a career. And an amazing life in all of you. So that phrase doesn't really matter as long as you stay consistent. Be a fucking force of nature with what you do. Find what you love and just take a step forward. Keep doing it. And if anybody doesn't believe in you, who cares? Passion, doing what you love, taking that step forward. I want to tell you something what you guys did this week, and then I'll move on to the questions. This is what you guys did. I started a fitness company called Massive Fitness Equipment after the pandemic, right? Not the best business decision. We put together the best racks, best equipment. We wanted to be better than Rogue. We wanted to be the best on the market. Hear me out. It failed miserably. It's just I had to pay so much money to bring the equipment in. And but I've had $30,000 worth of equipment in my gym. I just gave $15,000 of it to a local high school called Clinton Massey, small school. I just donated them, and I'm donating the rest to local police and fire. So what was a failed business? I used that and gave back to the community. But this isn't about me. This is about you guys. Because you bought that equipment with your support. Every time you bought an ebook, every time you bought coaching, you bought that equipment. You afforded me that opportunity. And I didn't do the best with that opportunity. It just wasn't a good business. There's things that hit me that I didn't expect. But I honored what you did. And I want you to know that I just gave that equipment back to the community. So even being able to do things like that, I'm so thankful that we had that opportunity. All right, let's go. Thank you for showing me the value of finding a split, an exercise selection that you enjoy, to go from hating a leg day to getting up. Hey, I'm glad you connect with it. I really am. Because part of coaching isn't just telling somebody to do something. It's helping people to find things that they like to do and that they enjoy doing. I tell every client during an onboarding call, I want to keep you healthy and happy. In that lane, we can build muscle. All right, Horned Frog. Any experience with lifetime lifters who are now in their late? Oh, yeah. And whose size and strength? I have a lot of clients in the 50s. Shelly, who just won, she's not a client of mine, who just won Member of the Month in the 60s. She's lifting strong. Using the Massive Iron Principle. She just put together a workout for me to critique. And I've coached lifters in their 60s and 70s. Are they a little bit weaker than they were? Yeah. So yeah, it's eroded, but they still train. I think really that's one of the beautiful things about resistance training is if you still do it, you're going to have to make adjustments over time, but you can still do it. Jared just popped in to say thank you for the 5, 10, 10, 20 bets. Thank you. It's one of the most successful programs I've ever created. And by luck, I just thought it was fun. And I'm like sharing it with you guys. And nearly everybody that gets on it sees a 20, 30 pound pop in their bench, in a short period of time. So if any of you guys haven't seen the 5, 10, 10, 20 and you want to hear more about it, there's free information on this channel. If you can't find it, I'll share a link with you, or you can check out my website, superlivingtoday.com, superlivingtoday.com, and just search bench press on that website. You'll find a bench press course with it. Barbell Beauty. My protein has been between 165 and 180. Okay, good. I'd like to experiment with eating more carbs. No, on a bulk, you're perfectly fine because carbs are protein sparing, right? When you are in a calorie restriction, your body is going to have to use some of that protein for energy. When you are in a bulk or maintenance, it's easier to eat less. For a woman, you could go down to 120, 130, 140. You'd be perfectly fine. How strict should barbell rows be? Well, we don't want to swing. Barbell rows are about driving the elbows back. So on a barbell row or a pendley row or whatever variation you're doing, you want to think about, I'm going to take a big breath. I'm going to brace my core, and I'm going to drive the elbows and shoulders back with the intention of feeling the upper back pull. So during that, we lead with the elbow drive, and if the torso moves a little bit because of physics, which we can't avoid, right? Then that's okay. If you see the torso move to drive the elbows, that's cheating. If we see the elbows drive and the torsos move a little bit because of it, that's okay. Does that make sense? Big Sam. Let's say on the bench, I'm lifting 2,402 pounds. We'll go 240 for 3 sets of 5 to 7. Super strong, by the way. If I add a rep roughly every 2 weeks, would that be good progress? That would be amazing progress. Because number one, a 240, if you're benching 240 for 3 sets of 5 to 7, you're benching 315 plus. So you're a gym elite bencher. If you add a rep every 2 weeks to your top set, that's 26 rep progressions over a year. Every single rep on your top set adds about 5 to 6 pounds. You would add 130 pounds to your bench in a year as an advanced lifter. Would that be good? That would be Crom. That would be the king. That'd be the top. That would be the ultimate. That's not just good. That's better 99.999% of lifters that reach 315 ever will be. That's super blessed and freak level. At that level, you're lucky to add 30 pounds to your bench a year or maybe 1 rep every 7 to 8 weeks. Email. Some fat bodybuilders' fat intake is ridiculously low. Yeah, I mean, if you're taking all kinds of weird hormones, I don't think if you're using a lot of PEDs, I'm not going to make a blanket statement because there is a difference between like small amounts and then the abusers. And I'm not criticizing the abusers. I'm just saying there's a difference. I don't think guys that are really into the abusive levels, and they don't wake up and like, I'm going to abuse my body. They're just trying to get as big as they can, right? No hate. But they're not always going to be, I mean, those guys are eating good. I've never seen one of them not eat good. So, Big Joe B, thanks for all you do and enjoy picking your brain. I appreciate it. And look, I appreciate all the questions because that's how we all learn. I find it hard to resist trying for plus ones when cutting. That's fine. It's not that you can't push for plus ones when you're cutting. You don't want to over push or go super heavy. If you can do it safely, take it. Okay. I still don't want you overdoing it to the point where you're going to get injured. Do you think that the deadlift or some form of a hip hinge, is needed for a complete? No. Of all the movement patterns needed for complete bodybuilding development, you do not need a hip hinge. Don't get your pitchfork. I love them. I didn't do it for 20 years, though. You can build a big back with pendlay rows and dumbbell rows and barbell rows and T-bar rows and seated cable rows and pull-ups and chin-ups and lat pull-downs and all the stuff. You do not need a hip hinge. Does that mean you can't benefit? You can. It just depends on if you like it. You can build up your hammy whammies without a hip hinge of sorts. Like we're speaking in a sense of a bodybuilding sense. Does that make sense? BHUD, big, hairy, ugly dude. If you have a client that was ready to bulk but also likes the snacks, how do you approach this generally? I will tell you, bulking is almost more difficult from a restriction level than cutting. What did he just say? Bulking is almost more difficult from a restriction level than cutting, but we get more calories, dummy. You do get more calories, but it's easier to stretch. Hey, I'm bulking, pizza and beer, and let's have some stuff, little Debbie feast, right? And then before you know it, you're up like 7 pounds in a week, and you're bulking, fat bulking. You thought I was going to say something else. You know what I'm saying? Bulking, you have to find your calorie groove and stick with it. Doesn't mean you can't have a little bit of fun every 2-3 weeks, but your weight gain has to be reasonable. It can't be like Fatty McFatterton every day of the week. I can't make somebody stay disciplined, right? You just mentioned that we can gain on 2 to 3 days a week, 2 sets per exercise. Do you mean if you want to do like, I don't want to get in the world where I'm encouraging people to train 2 days a week. If that season hits you, then maximize it. You're still going to build muscle. But if you only had 3 workouts a week and 2 sets for 6 exercises, because 6 is about what you're going to do, maybe 7. You can get a lot out of that. Now, we're not going to do that every season of our life unless there's some odd reason we have to. But seasons like that, yes, you can gain a lot of muscle mass. Think of it like this. You got 2 lifters. One, you just tell them to go into the gym and train hard. Okay? You're going to go train hard. 2, you whisper in his ear, I'm going to give you $10 million if you get the most muscle mass you can out of 12 to 14 sets a day and 3 days a week training. What are you going to do? You're going to go to the mad scientist lab and you're going to get funkadelic. Think bigger than weekly volume. Think bigger than sets and exercises. That's where you get into hard training. Does that make sense? If you told me that I could only do 12 to 14 sets a day, 3 days a week for the rest of my life, how would I train? I would get funkadelic. Raphael, how can I work out my posterior chain using body weight? You really can't. I mean, your posterior chain is the backside of your body, so you can do, technically you can do pull-ups and back work and hamstring work and glute work, and you can work your posterior chain. But those are big muscle groups. outside of the pull-up, and the lunge, which will hit your gluteus maximus to a degree, it's harder to hit the posterior chain, with body weight. So this is for field workouts after runs. Other than pull-ups, you can do lunges, Bulgarian split squats for your glutes and hips. To a degree, your hammy whammies, reverse lunge, maybe heel elevated reverse lunge. We're not really worried about our lower back body weight wise. I mean, you could do body weight good mornings, but that's going to have a trivial impact. Upper back, you really need gym time for that. You mentioned, no, we did that already. Sorry. Is 185-pound male drug-free hitting 300-pound bench? Yeah, exceptionally strong. That's gym elite. That's 100% gym elite. Is volume training better to grow? No. Is it okay to switch front squats for leg extensions? It depends on the totality of the workout. You have to look at what the totality is of hitting that muscle group rather than one exercise. Could you switch leg extension for front squats? Yes, if the bigger picture made sense. If your program only had leg extensions for quads and you were trying to build big legs, no. And back to the first part, you can't just do volume training. Volume training alone doesn't do anything. After the first 2 to 3 months, it all comes back to progressive overload and hard training, hard sets. In England, we say knickers and a twist, aka undies and a bundy. Should you keep your wrists completely straight on bench? Don't worry about all this stuff, guys. This is just micromanaging worry culture. Grab the bar, get a good grip with, control the weight down, press up. Don't overthink this stuff. Seriously, don't overthink it. There's no value. It's going to provide you no value overthinking this stuff. Working on keeping my knees open wider on squats, my reps drop good because you're probably knees in and half squatting. No, you're not going to go back to what you're doing. You had a subpart. I don't know. I can't see your squat in my head. But if you can't squat knees in, because what happens, you have the angle of your feet, and I'm just roughly doing this. When you squat, you want the angle of your thighs from your hips to your knee to match the angle of your feet. If you do, you're going to facilitate good depth. Facilitate, that doesn't inherently mean you will hit good depth. Many squatters squat down, their knees are in, they kind of cave forward and crash forward so they don't get crushed by the weight, and they don't realize they're doing this. When your knee angle is inside of your foot angle, you're not going to be able to get the depth. If you do, your heels are going to rise and roll in. Watch somebody's heels on a squat. Just watch their heels. If you see them lift and roll in, their knees are usually inside of their foot angle, and then go back and look at the angle of their knees. You are not chasing numbers, Justin. Hear me. You are not chasing numbers at the expense of form. You're chasing good form that facilitates growth and strength and healthy joints. This is going to tear up your knees and hips if you squat like that. People can half squat a lot of weight, but that doesn't mean it's doing anything for them. I'm doing low carb diet with 50 grams carbs a day and 50 extra before bed and after a workout. What are you worried about keto for? I'm just asking. Are you trying to lose weight? Then who cares about keto if the scale's moving? I'm just saying. Keto does not matter if the scale's moving. Obviously, if keto is in the mix, we're worried about weight or fat. I just simply haven't run into anybody bulking that's trying to stay in ketosis. So that's my assumption. It doesn't matter, my friend. All that matters is weight loss. Don't torture yourself, my friend. Do you have any strength tiers for front squats? If you can't do 45, you're probably dead. No, not really. I mean, I would consider 315 pretty gym elite. You just don't see a lot of 315 front squatters. People are going to ask for a single, 5 reps, doesn't matter. You just don't see a lot of people do 315. That would be gym elite. You get up into 365, 405, it's super rare just because not a lot of people front squat. I would say 225, 245, you're in an intermediate zone. Richard, have a great weekend. Thank you, sir. You too. Stan, the best combination in the world, Friday and beer. Thank you. I can't go wrong with beer. Should you lock out on your bench? This is another thing where people worry. And since we're talking about worry today, lock out your bench. Press it up. That little micro from not locking it out, that little micro degree of stress ain't going to do anything. What really adds tension, mechanical tension, to stress of the bench is controlling it down. That's where people go down or go wrong. So control it down, kiss the shirt, press it back up. Reps get hard at the end. I'm sitting there in lockout for 1 or 2 seconds, taking a big breath. Fat chick in a barn with the wavy hand. How you doing? I'm a power lifter. Bought your massive collection. What's best for the off-season program? Off-season, you probably want any of the big power building programs. There's a 5x5 in there that you might like. Power Muscle Bulldozer is a good base builder. You may or may not have trained like that before. Those are really solid programs. I would check those out. Big Alan Wolf, don't get your britches in a bunchy. Halo New Vegas. Yes, I think we covered that one already. That is Jim Elite. Jesse Caballero, is your new book going to be an ebook? Physical copies. I'm at about 25,000 pages into my book, and it's going to be at least 100, if not 200, probably 200,000 pages. It will be an ebook and a series of hardcovers, like volumes. And I'm also going to put it into a course system. So I'm going to have a whole course and education system that I'm working on structuring. And that's optional. You don't want to buy it, you don't. But if anybody wants to really get into the curriculum, into the information, and learn and be able to teach maybe trainers, that'll be available as well. Maybe you just want to nerd out and learn as much as you can because you like it. Lieris, I finally gained the mobility to squat mainly in my quads, but I can only do a plate. Don't ever only yourself. My other form, which is more even between hips and quads, is heavier. Let me see it. Don't just, I need to see a squat to be able to coach a squat. So just being honest with you, man, I'd have to see it. Where should the angle of an incline bench be at? About 20, 25, 30 tops. You don't want to over angle an incline. You just want a slight. Some say low, some say high. You don't want to go high. If you're going to go 45, if you're going to go 45, my wife's calling. If you're going to do 45, then I'll just message my wife. If you're going to do 45, it's just way too much. You might as well just do overheads on. Little W's are awesome. Cutting only sucks until your bulk calories get to the point of spending all day eating clean foods. And then cutting is relief. Yeah, I mean, if you're spending all day eating clean foods, that can get tedious. I agree with dumbbells and donuts. One of the best decisions I made was finally signing up. Thank you. Do you plan on running more business courses? I am offering business help. If anybody wants business help, I got to be honest, I can't do it cheaply because there's a lot of in-depth material to cover. And I'm offering it basically in 4 to 8 hour blocks. So if you're interested, you can message me. There's a lot of value in it, though. I'm going to show everybody the nuts and bolts of a YouTube channel, how to structure content, how to find, your audience, how to speak about education rather than infotainment, everything. I appreciate you sharing your childhood, and even though you've never been my coach, I can tell you you've earned every bit of that award. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I'm experiencing shoulder pain from barbell and dumbbell chest exercises. How should I lower the weight to my chest? First thing I would do is consider getting a bench press slingshot device. It's going to cost you $50, $60, but it's going to provide shoulder support. I'm not a doctor. I don't know the nature of the pain. If it's bad enough, you need to go see a doctor, right? But if it's not that bad, I would probably get a bench press slingshot device and see if that helps. If not, then see a doctor. I also have the Titan leverage squat machine. My only complaint is that when I load it with the heavy weight, the shoulder pads, yeah, you're going to get the tattoos on your back, the marks, that's for sure. Hello, coach. Can you help with how to balance martial arts and resistance training? I'm a regular guy with a job. I have a lot of people that I work with that do martial arts. So I would need to know more, like how many days a week you're doing martial arts and what you're training for. You can either join teammassiveiron.com and I'll be glad to help, or hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman with a little bit more information, and I'll guide you in the right direction. That exact same advice I got was to get a slingshot. Helps a ton. Indeed. All right, guys, we're out of here. Thanks for watching. Long one today, but I appreciate each and every one of you. Please head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman and follow me. And we'd love to have you at teammassiveiron.com. Please head over to my website, superlivingtoday.com. Check out that coaching tab. I'm taking on 5 to 10 new individuals, and I would love to work with you. So thanks, guys. Have a good weekend, and we are out of here.
It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.